everyone. Welcome to a new edition of our program Africa Today. And now we start our program with some reports from the African continent and from Egypt. Egypt's National Council for Women and CW participated in the activities of the China-Africa Women's Forum. The event is organized by All China Women's Federation for 4 days. More in the coming report.
The National Council for Women said in a statement that member of the council Mary Bishara took part in the China-Africa Women's Forum, organized by All China Women's Federation for 4 days on behalf of the council chairperson Maya Morsi. Bishara said Egypt is the first country to launch the 2030 National Strategy for the Empowerment of Egyptian Women under the Sustainable Development Strategy SDS. She also shed light on women-related great achievements made by Egypt at different levels. She said the Council's participation reflects deeply rooted ties between Egypt and China, as the Council has a long-run partnership on economic empowerment and entrepreneurship for women. The forum concentrates on female empowerment in Africa and China with a view to exploring ways on how women can collaborate and play greater roles in society.
And to shed more light on the importance of this forum, we are joined over the phone by Ambassador Souad Chalabi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So first, can you shed more light on the importance of Egypt's participation in China-Africa Women's Forum?
This forum has been previously held in Senegal, and this time it is held in the Changsha Hunan province, and the National Council for Women is represented by Mary Bishara, who is representing the chairwoman of National Council for Women, Maya Morsi.
Yes.
So it is important that Egypt is present there to discuss and to shed light on the importance of the role of women in Egypt, because this forum has representatives from all the countries in Africa, the women who are representing the different agencies, different governments, and also NGOs.
Yes, Ambassador Souad, how would you describe China's interest in the empowerment of African women?
Well, as you know, China has an important initiative. It is the Belt and the Road Initiative, and Africa has the African Union Agenda 2063, and they both focus on the empowerment of women. So China is trying to link those two initiatives together for the sake of implementing the strategy. As you know, Egypt was the first country to have a strategy for women, a strategic women. This is the National Council for Women, who has put a strategy for the Sustainable Development Goals 2030. That means that Egypt was the first country to launch that strategy. Now we are in the process of development of the strategy and implementing the strategy. And this is very important for China, because Egypt is a leader for African countries, and many countries are following the Sustainable Development Goals, and they have their strategy towards empowerment of women. So the Egyptian women is playing a great role in society, and also it is a model for women empowerment in Africa and in China. So this special event is focusing on women's economic empowerment in different sectors. So that is why Egypt is a great model to focus on in this event.
Yes, Ambassador Souad, how would women empowerment impact economic development in Africa?
Well, as you know, women are half the percentage of the population, like 50%. If we don't make use of this 50%, then the economy is going to be always lagging behind, because 50% of the population are not active, are not contributing. So economic feasibility is based on the whole society being employed. So women's education, women's training, women's employability is very important in order for the economic progress of all countries. So African countries suffer because all women are not educated, mostly, not all. I mean, the percentage of women who need education are high. The health and also training and employment. So mostly they need all this in order to become to have a role in the economy. That means that we need to focus on education of African women, training and employment, so that the economies are more stable and are flourishing.
So also, if we talk about the status of Egyptian women here in Egypt 10 years after the 30th of June revolution, and we are celebrating this great event these days, how do you see the status of women and the President Fattah al-Sisi's keenness to support Egyptian women?
The Egyptian women actually is living its golden age during the past 10 years.
Yes.
It has chosen progress over regression. It has chosen inclusion over exclusion. It has chosen empowerment over discrimination. So you can see that the numbers, percentages of women in the parliament has increased during the past 10 years to 28%. The women ministers are also 25%. The women vice ministers are 27%. The deputy governors are 31%. The female ambassadors are 25%. There is also an advisor to the president for national security, who is a woman, and this is the first time that any woman in Egypt went to that high ranking. So there are governors, judges, prosecutors, policymakers. All these women have resilience, they have responsibility, they are shouldering responsibility, and they are supportive and conducive to the environment. That means that women in Egypt are encouraged to lead, to become leaders, and they have played a pivotal role in the revolution 2013 and in getting rid of the Brotherhood regime, because they wanted to have a great political role in the society, and they have really contributed successfully to the elections. So the Egyptian women have already they have a future, they have a vision for their future, and they are participating in the society, and they have responsibility towards their government and towards their society.
Yes. So, Ambassador Souad, back to the African continent. In your opinion, what are the challenges that face women empowerment in the Black continent?
Of course, as I said before, that there are armed conflicts, there are terrorism, and there are problems in African society that hinders the future of women. So there has to be a role for women in order to get more education, more contribution to their societies so that they can help in stopping the conflict from the beginning, like in their small villages and in their small communities. If women play a role, then if they are trained to be leaders, then they can stop the conflict from starting. Usually the civil unrest that happens in Africa is mainly in the big cities. So it is possible that women are not given the right role in order to play. That is why women in Africa are suffering, because they are not given the right education, they are not given the right health support, and they are marginalized from the society. That is why they have been, some of them, of course, have been radicalized, and some of them have been fanatically abroad. That means that they are not indulged in the problems of their society. They have not been able to take a role in leadership in their society.
And how do you describe China's interest in the empowerment of African women?
Yes, China is very indulged in Africa. There are many companies in Africa who are working in infrastructure and in agriculture, in industry, and that is why this meeting especially is focusing on the promotion of industrial development, and also it focuses on the promotion of the development of African industrial chain and the added value of African products. That means that it is possible that women are given the possibility of financial assistance in order to have small and medium enterprises, because China is helping the small and medium enterprises, and especially when women are leading these small and they are producing different African products. So
yes,
if China and Africa work for that aim in order to have more products, that will be a good end to the forum.
Yes, Ambassador Suaid Shalabi, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you for being with us today. And back to our reports from the African continent. Sudan's army called for young people, others, to enlist and fight against rival paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF). Several rounds of peace talks hosted by Riyadh and Washington in the Saudi coastal city of Jeddah have all but broken down, with both mediators accusing the RSF and the army of continually violating truces brokered by the two nations. Details follow.
The Sudanese army called Monday on young people and anyone else capable of fighting to enlist at the nearest military command for battle against rival paramilitary force. Sudan descended into chaos after fighting erupted on April 15 between the military, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces commanded by General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo. Since then, over 3,000 people have been killed according to the country's health ministry, while about 2.5 million people have been displaced according to the UN. The true death toll is believed to be much higher. Monday's call to arm comes just days after Burhan made a near-identical appeal during a televised speech, asking Sudan's youth and those capable of fighting to support the army, either from their place of residence or by joining the military movement. It remained unclear if Monday's call to arms was a forced conscription. Observers say that in the capital Khartoum, RSF troops appear to have the upper hand on the city's streets, having commandeered civilian homes across the capital and turned them into bases. Throughout the 10-week conflict, the army has retaliated with airstrikes that have hit residential areas and sometimes hospitals. The province of West Darfur has seen some of the worst violence. In a report issued 2 weeks ago by the Dar Masalid Sultanate, several rounds of peace talks hosted by Riyadh and Washington in the Saudi coastal city of Jeddah have all but broken down, with both mediators publicly accusing the RSF and the army of continually violating truces brokered by the two nations. At least 9 ceasefires have been agreed upon since the conflict broke out. None have lasted.